trying to find middle ground, but Alexander's tenure with the Packers ends after 7 seasons. He had planned to report for mandatory minicamp starting today. The 2018 first-round pick had 2 years left on the 4-year, $84 million deal that made him the highest-paid cornerback in the NFL at the time. The move will save the Packers more than $17 million in salary cap space this season. The NBA Finals tied at 1 game apiece. Game 3 is this Wednesday night in Indianapolis. The Thunder even things up on Sunday with a 123-107 win. Following organized team activities, most teams around the NFL begin mandatory minicamp starting today. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive.
That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Father's Day is Sunday, and if you haven't found a gift yet, don't panic. Just come to Macy's Father's Day sale for gifts that'll make Dad say, this is perfect. Shop designer polos from Lacoste and Tommy Hilfiger, 30 to 50% off. Watches from Citizen and Bulova, 30% off. Fragrance gift sets, boxed and ready to give. Even a 36-piece Cuisinart grill set, now half off. Hurry in. Father's Day is this Sunday, and this sale starts tomorrow at Macy's. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
You don't have to sink a 30-footer from the end of your driveway to come out of the NBA playoffs smelling like a rose. Sports Grid brings you all the angles, insights, and odds.
And more to make you a winner.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
The only place in football where the offense is always on the field is on Moneyline. With the 2 best hosts in radio, Donnie Rightside.
If anybody wasn't watching, listen, I don't know what you were doing.
And Kevin Walsh.
Forget act like you've been there before.
On the Sports Grid Radio Network, Sirius XM Channel 159.
Welcome in. The best hour of your day now officially underway. You understand that. I understand it. The people out here understand it. It's time to get down to some business today. The hottest topics, I got you covered on everything. No doubt about it. We're going to talk a lot of Major League Baseball today. Full card on a Tuesday. It's a solo mission for your boy DRS. Kevin will be back tomorrow. Had to handle some things today. U.S. Open is this week. Oakmont, Pittsburgh area, Pennsylvania. Rough out the wazoo. Scotty Scheffler's still a major favorite in that one. No question. We'll talk a little NFL news. You got some training, organized team activities opening up ahead of training camp. These are mandatory. Some players that aren't showing up to training camp. We'll get to that in just a few moments. Let me just hit the retweet button here. Live on Restream, people. That's on YouTube. That's our channel. More and more people every day clicking on that button to say, subscribe. I'm here, ready to go. Darren's out here. Aaron's out here. Francisco's out here. And also, Ian Mac 21. Let's get it, Donnie. 40th birthday. Oh, 40th. Welcome to the 40s, Ian. Let's go, man. 47 for your boy over here. All right. Good to see people in the 40s out here cranking it up and having some fun. But there are topics we want to get to because I want to lay out, some things we're going to do in Major League Baseball today. Yesterday, my 2 favorite plays were 2 team totals went 1-1. I also bet those 2 team totals at an alt-team total price and won that parlay. It was a pretty high juice number, like a minus 168 price, but I took it. And I also went with 5 RBI players yesterday, and 4 of those guys got RBI, and I round robbed them. Not for a lot of money, but it was a pretty good profit as it ended. The only guy I missed on yesterday was Rafael Devers. And he had runners on second and third and struck out at the plate at one point in that game with under 2 outs. Could have had a clean sweep on those 5 for 5. So feeling good at this point here. Happy birthdays in the chat box. Jordan P's out here. The boys are ready to go. If you're listening right now on Sirius XM Channel 159, love to see it, guys. The Sports Grid Radio, sportsgridradio.com. Love to see that as well. If you're out here on the app itself, the Sports Grid app, one of the best apps in the business. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Father's Day weekend this weekend. As it turns out, you want to put some cash in your pocket. But there's a hot topic that floated through this morning, which I do think we deserve a little bit of time to spend on it because we're all in the gambling stratosphere, right? And I can just remember, and everybody probably had the same evolution. Hey, sports gambling isn't legal outside of Las Vegas. and you do what you got to do. Is it a corner man? Is it a bookie at that point? Is it the offshore marketplace? You got down how you got down. And then there was that day in 2017, the state of New Jersey, the state I live in, which has a lot of flaws and is way overpriced and expensive, fought that good fight for the rest of the country and knocked down PASPA and got us to have legalized sports betting in New Jersey. What a day it was, man. Couldn't believe it. Was hearing about the rumblings for years and years and years and how much of a long shot it was actually going to be. And the fact that it got overturned was wonderful. It was great for me because why? The sports betting industry I was already in at this point, you knew it was going to hit hyperdrive. And it did. And the rest of the people that didn't understand about gambling and brought it out of the corners and the shadows, the back alleyway, now into the forefront. We can get it government regulated, so much easier to use. You can use your bank accounts. You can get it transferred in and out. Everything is really good, right? So now there's going to be the evolution of the marketplace because we know the big providers out there, the DraftKings of the world, the FanDuels in the world, clearly eating a lot off of that public pie, right? Then you have obviously the Fanatics and the BetMGMs and the Caesars, a lot of people getting into the space. We also saw a little bit of a collapse over the past year and a half because if you're not the top end of that spectrum, you're not making enough money because of the heavy absorbent taxes that some of these sportsbooks have to pay, depending on certain states out there. New Jersey, one of the greatest sports betting opportunities you have. Why? So many books, regulations are decent, but other states are sort of taking advantage. Like New York has a high tax rate because they're saying you guys will pay this because of how many people that will be betting and also in the areas that they're going to be betting and the amount of money you can make. Maybe it's worth paying a higher tax. But now we're seeing today, and get this from the state of Illinois, and this is through FanDuel. This is not an industry-wide thing. And the prospect of David Payton Purdom, who is a beat writer out there who does follow a lot of gambling stuff, he tweets out this morning, and this was 7:42 a.m., FanDuel will begin charging a 50-cent transaction fee on every bet placed on its platform in Illinois on September 1st, 2025, the company announced Tuesday. The transaction fee is in response to a recent tax increase on the sportsbook in Illinois. Let's get one thing straight. Taxes always get passed on to the little guy, and the little guy isn't the owner of the company. It's the gambler themselves. It's the way it is in life, and it's what you have to expect because when greedy states like Illinois reach into the pockets of places that are a cash cow, the cash cow doesn't say, cool, we'll pay it. We'll make sure our fans have a great experience, and the gamblers that come to our site, they'll be fine. They always pass it on. It's the same way in every market hey, gas prices go up. Man, why just go to the deli here? And my turkey sandwich was $5.75 yesterday. Now it's $6.25. Up, gas went up. Therefore, meats went up. I'm not eating that cost. You're going to eat the cost. One always thing I thought was highway robbery with owning a couple sandwich shops was the simple fact was the credit card companies, how much they would charge for just debit and credit transactions a month, which is man, you are taking a big chunk out of my profitability because people aren't using cash anymore. They're using debit cards and credit cards. Like those server companies, they were making a killing. But now you see as you walk into a lot of establishments out here, guys, is what? They pass that on to you. Hey, if you use a credit card or a debit card, 3.5% transaction fee. Come on. Now that's mine and not of the business because they will always turn it back on you after a while. Now, here's the interesting part about it. When you say taxes come in, right? Because I'm going to start here and try to explain it this way. Cigarettes, what they cost in the early 1980s compared to now is ridiculous. Because why? There's a huge tax on cigarettes. So why is that pertinent to gambling? Hear me out on this. People that smoke and said, you know what? That pack of cigarettes that used to cost $5. And it was probably $1.50 in the early 80s, $2 in the early 80s. Let's just say from the 1990s, I'm just using a round number, I should say, of $5. And that pack goes, you know what? New Jersey State, Illinois State, Florida State, Georgia State, we're raising those fees if you're a smoker. And they go, wait a second. It's $5. You're going to raise this to $5.55? Yeah, I'm never smoking again. Nope. You know what those guys did? This is what it is. Went to the store the next day, picked up a pack of smokes that was $5. Now it's $5.55. I'll pay that 55% tax, which now buying cigarettes now is a $10, $12, $13 notion, depending what state you're in, because of the taxes. And the people that smoke are still paying that. It's a gasoline tax. There is a tax on everything in life that you will always get it passed on. But it's just a matter of how much you care about that product and the price that you're willing to pay. So immediately I see out here, and again, it's not anybody's fault that you don't understand the actual degenerate gambler and the gambler itself. Like, and somebody, don't blame the FanDuel, blame the regulators and politicians. You're right about that. Because FanDuel knows that we'll pay for it as a customer here if it's not too exorbitant, where it's like, hey, man, if I'm laying down a $5 bet, you're going to charge me an extra $5 for this bet. That's not happening right now. Here's the interesting part about it overall is you say to yourself, all right, another person says, here's the key. This is going to push a ton of gamblers offshore if the recent law doesn't get undone. This isn't how betting should be taxed. And he's right about that. But what he's wrong about is the fact of the matter is 50 cents that when I push that button, let's just say you bet $10 and you bet maybe 5 $10 bets a week. You don't care about the 50 cents. You just want to bet that game. How about the gambler that's betting $500 on a game? That's going to push him offshore because you have to pay an extra 50 cents. No. The one thing that we do know is where this leads. And that is certainly going to be 50 cents turns into $1, turns into $1.50. And then all of a sudden, they'll probably get around it by doing this, right? It's like, okay, we're only going to take that percentage if you win your bet. That's how you'll hide it, right? We say, okay, it won't be 50 cents on every bet. We'll just take $1.50 out of every winning wager you have. It's like, okay, I just won $100. It took $1.50. You won't miss it. The books are going to recoup that. The taxes are going to be paid to the government, and they'll like that as well. We're always left out as the gambler, but nobody's leaving FanDuel for 50 cents.
Boys of summer have returned and taken the field for the great American pastime. You should monetize that. Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
With the news flash, I'm Bill Banks reporting.
This update brought to you by Wendy's.
The Pentagon has deployed 700 Marines to Los Angeles in response to immigration protests, complementing local law enforcement and the National Guard. The troops are being deployed to protect federal property and personnel. Congressman Mark Green of Tennessee will retire from his seat once the House votes again on President Donald Trump's tax and budget policy bill. Green was the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee. Green says he has an opportunity in the private sector that is too good to turn down. Green's next election campaign would have been in 2026. A judge has dismissed Justin Baldoni's $400 million lawsuit filed against It Ends With Us co-star Blake Lively. Baldoni sued Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, alleging defamation and extortion. The judge ruled Baldoni cannot sue for claims made in a lawsuit because they're protected from libel. I'm Bill Banks with your news flash.
With Fidelity Wealth Management, a dedicated advisor gets to know you and your goals to build a comprehensive plan to help grow and protect your wealth. Backed by a team of specialists, they'll analyze all your accounts, even the ones they don't manage, to keep an eye on taxes and provide proactive portfolio insights that can help you unlock your wealth's full potential. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Broker Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
What was that?
That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very
calm. I am. Ooma has everything I need to handle the busy holiday season, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
You don't have to sink a 30-footer from the end of your driveway to come out of the NBA playoffs smelling like a rose. Sports Grid brings you all the angles, insights, and odds.
And more to make you a winner.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Fun time right now. Like we're sort of passing by, right? As I like to say, because we're in the month of June, which means we do have the championships that are underway in both the the NHL and the NBA. But understand this. I say you got to help me out sometimes. Like extending the series themselves, obviously typically up to the teams, games 5, game 6, maximum of game number 7. You could have a sweep, which obviously we can't have a sweep in the NBA Finals or the NHL because each one of those teams won a game. But the fact of the matter is you want to captivate your audience. I'm going to talk about the FanDuel thing in just a moment, but some things that just pop up like this morning. We have Pete Jensen on from NHL.com. Does a great job, explains to us, normies, as I like to say in hockey, what's going on, why things should change in the series, and, which way you want to put your money on, which is great to hear a person that understands the game as opposed to me just being a fan that hasn't been a fan in a couple years of hockey because my Flyers stink. But we're talking about a game like, okay, we're in Florida. The game was last night. Absolute blowout winner for the Florida Panthers. They go up 2-1 in that series, coming off games 1 and games 2, which were unbelievable. Overtime and double overtime, they split in Edmonton. Now you have a blowout. I'm like, okay, we'll talk about it today and then say, all right, tomorrow night, when they get back on the ice, let's see what happens. They're not even getting back on the ice tomorrow night. So it's the same thing like we talked about this weekend, guys, with the sporting events. And somebody could have ruled the world by just having a Saturday game in the NHL and or the NBA, and they passed on it. Then the NBA played a game on Sunday night, which is ridiculous. Then the NHL plays on Monday. We get nothing on Tuesday. The NBA finally returns back on a Wednesday, but hockey doesn't even come back to a Thursday. Like, it's just amazing how long these series take. And I could see way back in the day, it was like, hey, look, man, it's hard to get these clunky TV cameras across the country for the NBA Finals when it's the Celtics and the Lakers, and we got to go 2-3-2 because we don't want to have another chance that we have to get back on a plane or we're going to play these games. Stop it, man. These teams, the charter jets everywhere. Why are we not playing every other day? And if you're in the city itself, you should never have more than one day off. But that's what we're getting at this point. It's ridiculous. Like, that upsets me when I see that because I want these things to build momentum in their own right. And we keep on hitting the stop-start button, which is ridiculous at this point. Now, the chat box here, Francisco Carrasco says, food for thought. When you and Kevin do shows together, rename it. Food for the win, bet on flavor, taste the wager, eat and the odds, the winning plate. By the way, the winning plate, that's a pretty good one right there, right? Food, betting, good food, bad food, good bets, bad bets. It's good stuff out there for other people listening out here on Sports Grid On Demand and watching live here with Restream on our YouTube channel. Donnie, how do I get on there? Easy. 3 words. Sports Grid On Demand. Go to YouTube, type that in. You'll see the live feature pop up. Click on it, get in the chat box, and have some fun. Now, as we start to transition and talk about some baseball today, which there are spots that I do like. Decent night last night. 1-1 on my favorite bets. That sort of went down the list there and picked up a little bit of coinage. But just to get back to FanDuel real quick on this, right? We're talking about the 50 cents, which, again, doesn't sound like a lot. Hopefully it doesn't come to other states and they understand it because it's not a great business practice, but we like gambling. The same way people like to drink alcohol, the same way people like to smoke cigarettes. Like, I don't want to say the addiction people always pay. It's not fair. Like, we just like, it's part of your pastime. Like, hey, we like to watch a game, and now I can pull up my phone, go to FanDuel, go to DraftKings, go to Fanatics, wherever you're going, Bet 365, and say, I just want to place a wager on this game and have some fun, sit in the comfort of my living room, and when the game's over, if I won, push the cash out button, go out and eat some pizza, right? It's that simple. But the fact of the matter is the 50 cents isn't going to stop, and that's the issue here. It's not like we're writing into it saying, okay, state legislature said you can't charge more than 50 cents for a bet that gets placed here on your sports book. We know what this turns into. And also playing on that hand of it's going to be 50 cents. Then it might turn into $1. And then it's like, okay, instead of doing that, we'll charge the 50 cents. But then if you win your bet, we'll take $1.50. We'll take $2. We'll take $2.50. Like, where does that slippery slope end up stopping? Because I don't know if it does now. Once the floodgates are open, like, understand this from a business perspective, right? You have a certain tax amount that you have to pay that you, as an ownership of a shop. Like, let's just say it's 6% sales tax here in the state of New Jersey. If you sell a gross of $100,000, you got to pay 6% of that, which is $6,000, which goes to the government there. But let's just say, like, government cuts your taxes. You're like, well, I'm still going to charge a 6% markup on my products. You're not giving that back to your customers. Like, they're already used to paying it. Now I'm not paying as many taxes. They'll leave that in there. Like, gas prices, yes, they do go up and down. I understand that. But market fluctuation, where business owners are used to making a certain point, and it's like, well, if I sold a sandwich for $6 this year and my taxes went lower and I can get turkey cheaper, why would I lower it to $5.50? I'll just keep it at $6 and I'll keep the profit in hand myself. That's what's going to happen at the evaluators, or the sportsbook evaluators, right? Understand this. Some of my favorite things I used to read about, like, you know, growing up in this Philadelphia area, and it's the same thing everywhere. You live near a city, there are bridges, right? You live near a toll road, right, which we have in New Jersey, just like everywhere else. New Jersey Turnpike and also the Parkway here, you pay a toll for. Your tax dollars paid that toll. And the initial part of the bridges, which head into Philadelphia from New Jersey, Walt Whitman Bridge, and let's just say the Ben Franklin Bridge, the two big ones here. Like, the Walt Whitman goes into South Philadelphia, the Ben Franklin Bridge goes directly into Center City. They said, all right, well, we're going to charge a toll fee. that you're going to cross this bridge, you're going to pay a certain amount, whether it opened up at 5 cents and now it's like 5, 6, 7, or $8. Heaven forbid you want to cross the GW heading into New York City. I think you have to give your entire month's pay in order to get across that bridge. But there was a time where they said, we're going to build this bridge. And yes, we did use taxpayers' money, but we want to recoup it. We're going to charge a small toll. Once that toll is done and we have met off all our needs and we paid off the loan or the bonds for the bridge, we'll take it away. And lawmakers said to them, absolutely not. Why would I take away you driving across? You're paying $5 now that the bridge is paid off. We can use that elsewhere. That's where they start stealing and getting in your pocket, which again, 50 cents doesn't seem like a lot. It's not going to drive anybody away, but $2, $3 on a $10 bet that they're going to take from you, whether it's front end or back end, that's going to make a difference eventually. And that's going to get people upset. Enough to drive offshore, probably not the case for 50 cents because the ease, the compatibility, and majority of the better odds being onshore than offshore, and also some of the bonuses that you like and all that stuff. Hopefully it evens out, but it's a bad sign for the betting industry, not per se from the bookmakers or the taxation department. It's just us gamblers because at the end of the year, hey, maybe they got you for $100, $150, $200. It's like, hey, wait a second, man. I could have used that and bet that myself at this point as opposed to paying you for holding my wager. Stop the madness. Let's get to Major League Baseball next. We got a big card, people. I'll be right back.
Stamping out the boredom in baseball year after year. We bring you all the angles, insights, and information you need. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
The Sports Grid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1975, the Yankees sponsor Army Day at their temporary home Shea Stadium. During a 21-gun salute, part of the fence is blown away, and another part is set afire. The Bombers made Queens their home in 1974 and 75. The house that Ruth built reopened in 1976 as the Yankees beat the Twins 11-4. For Sports Grid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
New University of Geneva research suggests AI better at understanding human emotional intelligence than most humans.
Is this Tech Minute about something serious, or are you just really, really good at pretending?
No, 6 generative AIs actually tested 30% better than humans on standard emotional intelligence tests.
If nothing else, I'm really good at creative guessing.
Even wilder, AI generated new emotional intelligence tests from originals as useful as the ones humans took years to develop.
It's like a party where I know everyone but don't remember their name.
Meaning AI might replace human psychologists, but only when supervised by humans. For now, anyway.
My deepest fear, knowing the answer 5 minutes before I'm asked.
Follow me, at Capalbo on X, and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
So if your move is, well, maybe we'll get rid of Ozuna, that doesn't help your pitching staff. That doesn't help the bullpen. That doesn't help that dead lineup with players like Matt Olson who really need to step up and aren't doing that here. We thought they were going to get a shot in there. Hey, look, play better baseball. Strider's back. Acuna's back. It's going the opposite direction, which is something I don't think anybody saw coming.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the Sports Grid Radio Network. In baseball, a batter gets 3 strikes. In sports gaming,
you get 1.
No do-overs. You need all the help you can get. And that's what you get with us, your trusted source for gaming odds and more. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Major League! I'm catching because I'm pitching. Who said that? It's Rick Ross. That's who said that. Rick Ross loved himself some baseball out here in these streets. It is what it is. We'll talk baseball today and also a couple hot topics here on the NFL. But yesterday on that Major League Baseball card, you know what surprised me? The Guardians team total was 4.5. I took the Guardians over 4.5 as one of my team totals and lost by the hook in that game. 3 runs by the 3rd inning, weren't able to get 5 runs against Wade Miley. 5 innings pitched for Miley, 3 earned runs given up. Didn't get that done. Surprising, though, that Miley's still pitching in Major League Baseball. Another lefty on the mound. We'll get to an Andrew Abbott for the Reds and see if the Guardians can hit him today. We'll check in with that. The Pirates busting out the bats yesterday in a 10-3 victory over the Marlins. The Philadelphia Phillies, who pulled one out yesterday, it looked like they were going to lose that game when the bullpen blew another game. But here's the issue for the Phillies. 4 runs on 16 hits. Oh, man, that's great, 16 hits. One of those hits was by Nick Castellanos. It was a double. The rest of the 15 hits, they're all singles. You can't win in Major League Baseball. You can't win with 16 hits and 15 singles. The honey they did yesterday, I get it. But if you don't have any pop in that lineup, which they don't, boy, they need help. 3 to 4, base hits an inning just to get a run, that's a disastrous opinion there. The Cubs only scored 3 runs, only had 5 hits. Because why? They hit a couple home runs. That makes a difference. Yesterday, the only RBI prop I lost for myself was on Rafael Devers yesterday on a day where the Red Sox played at 8 runs and still lost to the Red Hot Rays 10-8. The Brewers yesterday, I told you on the shows, 2 RBI props I liked from that game was Drake Baldwin. Didn't get an RBI, but Matt Olson did in that game, which included a home run. 7-1 victory for the Braves. They absolutely needed that. Both the Phillies and the Braves needing wins like water yesterday. I mean, my goodness. Angels take down the Athletics 7-4. The Dodgers pull out a victory 8-7 over the Padres. And late night grand slam walk-off in extras. The Diamondbacks with an 8-4 victory over the Mariners, which saw 22 total hits in that game. So let's take a look at the card today. Let me separate a few things here so we can get some of these numbers up and in order. So some pitchers that maybe you haven't heard of before. Some pitchers like the Phillies with Mick Abel today, who've had 2 really good starts. Can that continue against the Chicago Cubs? No afternoon baseball, which sometimes I like because I feel rushed, right? Sunday morning show, 10 to 12. As soon as you get off, make sure you have your card in. Maybe your card's already out, but we don't know the starting lineups. First game tonight is going to be from Camden Yards at 6:35. That we'll get to in just a few moments. But the card today, I listed 27 pitchers over the past 30 days with, again, a minimum of 5 innings pitched on the season. Mick Abel's actually number 1 on the card, but granted, it's only 11 1/3 innings pitched. It's 2 games, and he's been really good. ERA 0.79, xFIP 2.40, but still a young guy. He's going to see a good lineup today with some good hitting conditions we anticipate in Philadelphia at Citizens Bank Park. Number 2 on the card with an xFIP number is Dylan Cease. Number 3 is Max Fried. Number 4, Lance McCullers Jr. Number 5 is Mackenzie Gore. So those are the guys certainly we're probably going to be staying away from at the spot. And one of those anomalies is Dylan Cease. 28 1/3 innings pitched over the past month. How about an ERA of 4.45, but an xFIP number of 2.42? So ERA-wise, getting beat up, but really his analytical numbers are saying he shouldn't be getting beat up at all. And as a matter of fact, over the past month, 2nd or 3rd on the card in WAR over the past month at 0.7. The only guy higher there looks like Mackenzie Gore's a 1.1. Shout out Mackenzie Gore, dominating here analytically here over the past 30 days. Pitchers that we probably want to fade tonight, around that 4.5 or higher xFIP number. Sandy Alcantara's at a 4.56 with the Marlins. Jose Soriano of the Los Angeles Angels, he's at a 4.58. Colin Ray of the Chicago Cubs, which is an interesting one I can't wait to talk about, 4.61. Brandon Pfaadt, who has really hit the tank here for the Arizona Diamondbacks at the worst possible time, with Corbin Burns going down with a elbow injury that's going to need Tommy John surgery. His last 18 2/3 innings pitched, guys, over the past month. How about an ERA of 11? Yes, you heard that right. An 11 ERA with an xFIP number of 5.53. Carson Palmquist, which, again, Colorado pitchers just seem to come up dead last almost on every single card we have. 18 innings pitched, an 8.5 ERA and an xFIP number of 5.59. Craziness here. So today's card, how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 games, which again, 30 teams in Major League Baseball. No doubleheaders today. We're all in play. Game number 1 is going to start at 6:35 with a lot of games at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock. A few games listed at 8. And then we have the nightcaps out there, 9:38, 9:40, and 9:40. That's the Athletics and the Angels. That's the Dodgers and the Padres. And that is the Seattle Mariners and the Arizona Diamondbacks here. We're going to get started right off the top here. 2 lefties, Herter and Povich. That's Detroit and Baltimore. Coming up next on Moneyline, it's a place to be. Handicapping Major League Baseball games. You know we love to do it. And we'll be right back.
Playoffs.
It all comes down to this.
And we'll give you all the angles to make sure you win a little something something. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. College baseball super regional action on Monday. Murray State shocked Duke with a 5-4 win in Game 3 to advance to the College World Series. They'll face number 15 UCLA this Saturday. Also on Saturday, number 3 Arkansas battles number 6 LSU. On Friday, it's number 13 Coastal Carolina against Arizona, and number 8 Oregon State battling Louisville. The College World Series is a double elimination format. The NBA Finals tied at 1 game apiece. Game 3 is this Wednesday night in Indianapolis. The Thunder even things up on Sunday with a 123-107 win. The Indianapolis Colts announced on Monday their ownership reorganization in the wake of the death of longtime owner Jim Irsay. His 3 daughters have assumed co-ownership of the team, each getting respective roles within the franchise. Irsay passed away at the age of 65 on May the 21st. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive.
That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
If there's one thing we know about dads, it's that they're not easy to shop for. Enter Kohl's. They've got everything from Nike golf gear to his favorite Levi's jeans. And you can save 20% on other finds like Flex Athleisure and Izod workwear. So if you're not sure what to get dad for Father's Day, you know where to go. Shop Kohl's now. Select styles. Offer ends June 15th. Some exclusions apply. Coupons do not apply to Nike and Levi's. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
You gotta dip your chicken strips. Hey, this is Kiani.
And this is Tabitha.
And a little thing we love about Chick-fil-A chicken strips
is all the different sauces we can dip them in. I like to line up all my favorite sauces so that in every bite I have a different flavor. Then with the tenderness of the chicken, the juiciness of it, it's all there.
And for me, I like to mix my sauces so I get a little tang and I get a little sweetness all in one bite.
That's what makes it for me. Like, that's what does it for me.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the summer of Chick-fil-A chicken strips and sauces. Order now on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Let's keep it real.
Baseball
can be boring. That's where Sports Grid comes in.
Nothing livens up those 9 innings like sports gaming. You might experience something you've never felt in a baseball game, a quickened pulse. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
All right, people. It's Major League Baseball 6:35. Just doing a quick little background on my guy, Brant Herter. Not really a household name here in pitching in Major League Baseball. Let me just go through his log right now. See what he's been doing out here. 2 innings. Yeah, nothing. So here's the tough part about it. Detroit and Baltimore, Herter's a lefty, Povich is a lefty. Listed starting pitchers today, 963, 964 on the rotation, 6:35 p.m. start. Favorite here, opened up as around a -120 favorite towards Baltimore. It's around a -130 favorite now, which is interesting because Baltimore, not a good team this season. Detroit, very good, and that total is listed at 9. Let me just check Roto Grinders here and just hit the refresh button because he's listed as a star. There we go. Okay. Brant Herter is going to be the opener tonight. Gibson Long is going to come in after him. So if we take a look and I say from Baltimore spot, Herter's a lefty, and the lineup for the Baltimore Orioles doesn't hit lefties all that well. So if we go Gibson Long, let me just trade him in here to this lineup. Where are you at here? Okay, Sawyer. Boy, he's got bad numbers. But he's only had 16 batters that he's faced. But Sawyer Gibson is a right-handed pitcher, so let me go to righties. And that opens it up a little bit. So this is interesting. We don't know how long Brant Herter is going to go, but the longer he goes is certainly not good if you want to, let's just say, bet the Baltimore Orioles because they don't hit lefties all that well. But against right-handed pitchers, they crack. And Sawyer Gibson, let me do a little research here. It's always good to look at that, too, because like, hey, he's only got a couple innings pitched here, and we'll just go off of that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Find a site, just like Fangraphs that I use here, and take a look at those game log splits. Because when you look at that, it's going to give you Major League, and then you have the option to take a look at his minor league statistics. So on 6-4, which is about a week ago, we had 3 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits given up, 3 earned runs given up, and 3 strikeouts. Not a great performance. ERA in that game, 7.36. xFIP number wasn't bad at 4.21. Let's go to his minor league starts, because that might tell the tale of the tape. And it actually was pretty good, or decent, I should say. First 3 starts were in A and high A baseball, so we'll remove those. His last 2 starts in AAA, 4 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 5 1/3 innings pitched, 1 earned run. Came up to Major League Baseball, didn't have a great start. So are you giving the benefit of the doubt today to the Orioles? 81 degrees first pitch in Camden Yards. Wind blowing out slightly to right field, that helps. But I don't know if I can trust that side, right? Like, all right, they really haven't hit all that much, but two pitchers they should be able to hit, and weather conditions probably conducive to hitting. I hear you on that. But you are taking a little bit of a leap of faith. Took one yesterday with the 4.5 on the Guardians. That leap of faith cost me a little bit of money. Cade Povich today on the opposite side. Now, if we look at Cade Povich, you see one of those guys where it's like, hey, man, I want to fade this guy. Not realistically anymore. 20 and 2/3 innings pitched over the past 30 days. An ERA of 4.35. But that xFIP number sitting at 3.18. It's a good strikeout pitcher, man. Over his last 89 batters he's faced, he struck out 33% of those batters. Left-handed batters are getting the best of him, as opposed to right-handed batters, at least over the past 30 days. Now, in the lineup today, you're going to get some pretty good lefties, Zach McKinstry, Parker Meadows, Riley Green, but the right-handed batters are probably where you want to focus. And Cade Povich has been pretty good against those right-handed batters. Now, let's even go into a little bit deeper here. Let's take a look at Cade Povich, because I'm going to go ahead and check some of his splits between home and away and get those splits between the xFIP numbers to see if they check out. So let's go here and we'll take a look at the splits. On the season to lefties, he's got a 287 weighted on base percentage, which is really good. On the season to righties, guys, it's a 356. That's elevated. Home, weighted on base percentage against 405. Hey, man, that's bad. Away, it's 280. So if we take a look at him being at home, that's a detriment to him for so far. So home, let's just say he's had 33 batters he's faced on the left-hand side. That's a 411 weighted on base percentage. Home versus righties, 93 batters. That's a 403 weighted on base percentage. All right. You got my attention here. So we could try to buck this trend for Cade Povich and him dominating right-handed batters. Let's slide it down just a little bit further. March and April, we had 29 and 2/3 innings pitched here for Cade Povich. ERA was a 5.16, and a weighted on base percentage against was really high at 3.81. Now, if you look at the last 2 months, if we combine May and the first week of June, in May, he was actually a 301 weighted on base percentage, which is above average for a pitcher. In his last start, 5 1/3 innings pitched, that weighted on base percentage at 2.68. So he's pitching much better over the past, let's just say, 40 days than he did to start the season. But let's look at those xFIP numbers because they might help us tell a little bit different of a story. Okay, 2025 against left-handed batters. He's a left-handed pitcher, keep in mind, guys. His xFIP is 2.82. But yet I just told you he's struggling with his last 29 batters, which is interesting. To right-handed batters, it's a 4.26 xFIP number, much higher, but his weighted on base percentages and ISO power numbers are much lower. Let's dig a little bit deeper here and try to take a look at the xFIPs of where they've been. At home, his xFIP on the season, we combine lefties and righties, it's a 413. On the road this year, it's a 366. So he's been a better pitcher on the road than he has at home. So if we take a look at those home statistics, to lefties, the xFIP number, guys, it's a 2. That is sparkling. But to right-handed batters, it's a 486. So here's where we're starting to level out, right? Because these are the conversations I love to have and sort of like pick my brain and say, what's the thought process, Donnie, that goes behind this of what you're looking at? Because if we're looking at the facts of what happened, Cade Povich doesn't get lefties out all that well. They can hit him for power, but right-handed batters, not a lot of success. But what's really happening here, right? It's getting just a little bit lucky at this point. He's a decent K pitcher. On the season, 20% to righties, which in the past 30 days has actually increased to 25%. That's good. But understand this as well. This isn't a high K lineup to lefties. You're taking a look at the K rates of under 20%. Gleyber Torres, Spencer Torkelson, Parker Meadows, Dylan Dingler, Zach McKinstry, Jamel Jones. Now, Jamel Jones only has a what? Or Jahmai Jones, excuse me, only has a 3 at-bats or 2 at-bats against lefties. But this is a lineup that doesn't K all that much. You're also looking at some heavy weighted on base percentages against left-handed pitchers. But as I said, usually you like the left-handed batters in the lineup here for Detroit better than you do the right-handed batters. That might not be the case today. Because if I'm saying based on just xFIP numbers, home and away splits, lefty-righty splits, Gleyber Torres should be on your card today. Wenceel Perez should be on your card today. Spencer Torkelson should be on your card today. Dylan Dingler should be on your card today. And maybe a little Javi Baez. But also understand this as well. You don't have as many reps here against lefties that you do on righties, particularly in Major League Baseball. I do like this game. I'm going to revisit it tonight. But I just wanted to break that down for you guys on what I think about when I see the numbers of what he's actually done. But then I want to take a look at the predictive numbers, like the analytical numbers, the xFIPs and the splits home and away, to see what actually should be happening. Because on the season, he should be locking down left-handed batters. Absolutely have them on lock. to right-handed batters, it gets a little bit different there, that 4.26 number, which isn't an over absolute disaster, but that's a high number. And then you take that xFIP number at home, and you say on the season, the righties, it's 4.26. Well, how about at home? It's 4.86. That's the danger territory at this point. So maybe you revisit and say, you know what? Torkelson's got to be the guy on my card, and that's the way you play it out. But that's game number one. I just wanted to give you guys a little food for thought on how you try to extend it, because Detroit is going to have an opener and then not so good pitcher behind it. Can you trust that Baltimore lineup against bad pitching and good weather? Maybe they should hit it. Or do you trust and say, well, Povich is pitching above his head right now, and those right-handed batters eventually should get to him, and maybe that night for those right-handed batters to get him tonight is 80-degree temperatures down at Camden Yards for the Orioles. Something to keep an eye on. Game number 2, 9:51, 9:52. That's Alcantara on the mound for the Marlins, taking on Keller of the Pittsburgh Pirates. If we take a look at some of these numbers here, Mitch Keller, how about his last 30 days, guys? 31 and a third innings pitched, a 3.73 ERA and a 3.17 xFIP number. Sandy Alcantara used to be one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. It's not the case anymore. He's 23rd out of 27 pitchers on the card today, guys, over the past 30 days. 26 innings total pitched, a 7.27 ERA and a 4.56 ISO power number against here. So for lining up players that you want to go up against Alcantara, it's hard still. Pittsburgh is waking up on offense a little bit like yesterday. They weren't that great in the Phillies series. O'Neal Cruz, maybe a Nick Gonzalez, a Henry Davis. Not a lot to love here in that game on both sides. We'll keep going down the card because there are good spots here. And maybe it starts in Cincinnati versus the Cleveland Guardians. We'll check into that next.
By the end, you might not have a ring on your finger. Stay tuned and you'll have a little something in your pocket. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. The NBA Finals tied at 1 game apiece. Game 3 is this Wednesday night in Indianapolis. The Thunder evened things up on Sunday with a 123-107 win. The Indianapolis Colts announced on Monday their ownership reorganization in the wake of the death of longtime owner Jim Irsay. His 3 daughters have assumed co-ownership of the team, each getting respective roles within the franchise. Irsay passed away at the age of 65 on May the 21st. College baseball super regional action on Monday. Murray State shocked Duke with a 5-4 win in Game 3 to advance to the College World Series. They'll face number 15 UCLA this Saturday. Also on Saturday, number 3 Arkansas battles number 6 LSU. On Friday, it's number 13 Coastal Carolina against Arizona, and number 8 Oregon State battling Louisville. The College World Series is a double elimination format. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive.
That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V26 Tool Power Tool Combo Kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines. Walk right through the door. It's all here to explore. With guides in the know and prices so low, it just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
Drink responsibly, B21.
Springtime. When a young man's fancy turns to
Get your mind out of the gutter.
For sports gaming strategies and information that gives you an unfair advantage, you'll find it all right here.
It's the winning edge.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Go through some of these games, and again, follow me at RightSideBP on Twitter. Anything special, anything good, certainly put that out to the people. It's the way we get down to business. Great chat box here, having some fun here around lunchtime, which I'm getting hungry. Maybe it's a Chipotle day. Feels like it's Chipotle today. I've been digging on a Chipotle, by the way, guys. Bowls with extra rice. I'm always a burrito guy. And by the way, I like to wrap the burrito twice. Some hot sauce on there. Always get the large bag of chips with the large guac every single time at Chipotle. But I'm feeling a bowl today. Yeah, loaded up chicken, beans, white rice. Got to get the cheese on there. Also take the both the corn salsa and the regular salsa. Splash on some hot sauce on that bad boy. That's the way to get through your day here. But let's get through some of these Major League Baseball games. We start with Cleveland and Cincinnati. Yesterday, I went with Cleveland, 4.5 team total. Only got to 4.5. That stinks. I was expecting to cash out a winner. I didn't get it here. Yesterday was Wade Miley, a left-handed pitcher on the mound, which, again, the Guardians don't hit lefties all that well, particularly over the past 30 days. Another lefty on the mound today. I'm not going back to the well. Why? Well, I lost yesterday against a lefty, but Wade Miley shouldn't be in the Major League Baseball. Andrew Abbott deserves to be in Major League Baseball. I'm staying away from that side. But Cincinnati might be a decent look. Slade Chaconi's on the mound. Let me just bring up his numbers here because he's not a good pitcher. What was the? Because I think I went against him in the last start. Did I get an RBI in that game or an RBI prop shot? It was the Yankees, right? 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs in that game. So actually pitched well. Before that against the Angels, got hammered. 2 decent starts to start the season. His xFIP numbers are a little bit high. And if you take a look at his last 88 batters he's faced, which technically is all the 88 batters he's faced this season, got a high ISO and a high weighted on base percentage here. You should be able to hit this guy. So if we look overall, and where's Slade coming into today? 19th on the card out of 27 pitchers with 20 1/3 innings pitched over the past month. High ERA, 4.33 xFIP number. But as I look at Slade, who's a right-handed pitcher, you probably want to stack some lefties up. You got some good lefties in the lineup tonight. Will Benson's out there. Ellie De La Cruz, switch hitter back from the left-hand side. Gavin Lux and TJ Friedel. So Friedel's got a high weighted on base percentage. Lux is okay. Ellie De La Cruz is off the charts. He's probably got to be on your card tonight there. And then Will Benson has great numbers against right-handed pitching. So today, if I'm looking at that price point, right, minus 122 for Ciccone, going down now to 110, 115. I agree with that. I think Cincinnati's the better team on the card today, and I am going to be looking for RBI props out of that game. Here's the game I did want to talk about, though. Philadelphia and Chicago. Look at the price points here. Mick Abel's on the mound. 2 really good starts to his Major League Baseball career. One against the Pittsburgh Pirates, not a great hitting team, but then went on the road where the Phillies didn't even win the game, but pitched extremely well against the Toronto Blue Jays. So he's going up against Colin Ray today. It's basically a pick 'em across the board. The Phillies are at home. Chicago Cubs are a good baseball team. Phillies beat them last night. We'll see what happens. I'm not in love with the Phillies lineup. You know who I'm also not in love with? Colin Ray, guys. 28 innings pitched over the past 30 days. An ERA of close to 5 and an xFIP number at 4.61. That really, really should be problematic today. 80 degrees at first pitch in Philadelphia, wind blowing out to right field. So I look at Colin Ray's last 30 days, high ISO power number to his last 119 batters. That's a 224. Weighted on base percentage, that's a 384. Lefties, he's struggling a little bit more than righties. But let's do a double dip here for him as well. Let's really take a look at some of those numbers for Colin Ray because they've sort of gone up over the past, 30 days or so. Hasn't pitched all that well. We'll take a look at his splits here. On the season, lefties have been much better against him than righties. That weighted on base percentage, 378 through 132 total batters. To righties, a 285, much lower. And also, that's really good for a pitcher at a 285. So lefties are probably where we're focused on. Let's also take a look at this. At home, he's got a 343 weighted on base percentage against. On the road, it's 325. 325 is still average. So it's not as if that split is so damning or so large. And away on the road, 54 batters he's faced, how about a 385 weighted on base percentage to lefties? Like to see that. Now, also understand this. We talk about some of those pitchers again. Oh, look at that. Bad start to the season, really coming on as of late here because the warmer weather and just pitching and getting loosened up a little bit more. In the month of March and April, 76 total batters faced, guys. Get a 246 weighted on base percentage against. If we go to the month of May, which is 33 2/3 innings, that 246 rose to 385. His last start here, a 318 weighted on base percentage, which is just about average. Okay, really good to start the season. Not so good as of late. Something to file away. Let's take a look at the analytical numbers here on Colin Ray. For the season, against lefties, that xFIP number, 4.73. That's dangerous. To righties, 3.81. Very manageable. Home xFIP, 3.96, guys. Road xFIP, 4.76. Away versus lefties, 4.61. Away versus righties, 4.93. It's hard to say, right? Because the way the Philadelphia Phillies have performed over the past couple weeks, that you want to back their batters individually or even as a team. Understand they did get, 16 hits last night? 15 were singles. Hopefully that turns a different direction and adds runs, right? Trey Turner might be a look here. Kyle Schwarber definitely. Alec Boehm, who even though didn't have a great game last night, the double play cost him an extra innings. They still won, though. Decent numbers as well as Nick Castellanos. I think the middle of that lineup for the Phillies can do some damage tonight. Schwarber, Boehm, and Castellanos is probably where I'd be looking. If we flip it over to the other side against Mick Abel, he's been really good. But that lineup for the Cubs is really good. Does Mick Abel come back down to earth after 2 really good starts? But that's not a spot you want to fade, right? And the kid's dealing. Game number 1 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Game number 2 against Toronto. So the jitters and the nerves probably are out of the system after 2 starts in Major League Baseball, and figure that you're selling yourself in. So from my perspective today, do I want to take the Phillies to beat the Cubs? It's not a bad price. But if I'm looking just on RBI props, maybe from a team perspective, it's more Phillies than Cubs, even though the Cubs lineup does look good against right-handed pitching. But Abel has been really good, and also understand this as well. When you haven't seen a young pitcher just yet, you can have all of the visual aids you need to study tape before getting into the batter's box until you see those fastballs and those off-speed pitches to sort of make those adjustments second and third time around. Maybe you have to wait for that there. Gore and Canning on the mound here, Washington and New York. That price point here, really heavy. Minus 156, minus 160, depending on where you're shopping. But Washington has the better pitcher on the mound tonight. You just don't have that hot a hitting lineup, but also understand this. Mets haven't hit left-handed pitching guys all that well over the past month. Now, take a look at this game up there at Citi Field. 75-degree temperatures. You love that. Wind blowing out to right field. You love that as well. But this Mets lineup doesn't really project itself all that well. And against Griffin Canning the other way, maybe got a better lineup. Is this an upset brewing at Citi Field for the Washington Nationals? Could be. One more segment to go on Moneyline. We'll be right back at it.
Care what your high school girlfriend told you. You are a winner. Or at least you will be if you keep it here. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
The new Sports Grid app is now available on iOS and the App Store. Experience the ultimate sports betting companion that provides personalized content from your favorite hosts. In-depth matchup previews, game and prop picks, live odds, stats, scores, and more. All in one place. And of course, on the Sports Grid app, you can tune into our live television and radio coverage anytime. On the go, wherever you are. Download the Sports Grid app on the iOS App Store now. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
For anyone who's worried about back taxes, has not filed tax returns, and doesn't know what to do next, stop and listen. Not filing your taxes can have severe consequences, especially in this political climate. Now that COVID is over, the IRS is getting aggressive, massively increasing enforcement and collection efforts. With politicians making all sorts of promises, especially when it comes to taxes, hiding and not dealing with your taxes will cause you harsh legal and financial ramifications. But right now, the IRS offers forgiveness and writes off a massive amount of tax debt. The Tax Doctor offers a free service that helps people get out of IRS collections and back in good standing with the government. Don't hide or bury your head in the sand. Take advantage of our free service. Call now to learn more. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. That's 800-816-4492.
Moneyline.
You know what happened?
Michael Chang.
You know what happened? Americans, you know what happened?
What happened?
You got older.
Nah.
You have less time, but your desire to push buttons never went away. So you went, well, I'm not watching the tennis. I'll make everybody else who watches the tennis feel a little weird about it.
Catch Moneyline with Donnie Rightside and Kevin Walsh. Weekdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. On the Sports Grid Radio Network. If you want to be an alpha, you've got to get the winning edge. It's kind of a necessary ingredient if you want to lead the pack. So mark your territory with the winning edge. You're in the big leagues. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Let's whip around to some bad pitchers, guys. And we start in Colorado. 83-degree temperatures. Hallelujah. 6-mile-an-hour wind blowing out to left field. Love to see that. Now, this game also, you're not going to get a discount. San Francisco is a minus 225 favorite in this game over Colorado. Palmquist versus Harrison in a total, which opened up at 11.5 and still sits at 11.5 ever. It's great hitting conditions. But I don't really care about Kyle Harrison right now. Where's he coming out on my card today? 13th overall, high ERA, but a lower xFIP number. But the focus is always going to be on who Colorado has starting. and that's Palmquist. And Carson Palmquist, through his last 18 innings, has an ERA of 8.50 and an xFIP number of 5.59. Here's the problem. Palmquist is a lefty. He can't get anybody out. But this lineup for San Francisco doesn't look all that good. Like, it looks like Heliot Ramos, Jung-Hoo Lee, maybe Wilmer Flores, and then a lot of luck throughout that lineup, because I assume that they are going to have a heavy, heavy number on this game as a team total. Let me just go to Bet365 quickly here and take a look at the team props. Let's go team totals, and we'll slide it down here to the Giants. Yeah, the Giants is 6.5. Like, honestly, if you told me right now the Giants should be able to get 7 off of Carson Palmquist and that really good temperatures out there, but it's just so prohibitive to see that. It really is. It's craziness. But again, that's why I wanted to bring that up. If you're looking for RBI props, probably Ramos and Lee leading the way in 1 and 2. But it's a shame that we don't have a lineup that absolutely crushes them. But then again, the Mets sometimes had some lineups that didn't look all that great. Absolutely hammered their way through Colorado, like just about everybody does. Let's take a look at Brandon Pfaadt tonight. Really struggling, guys, over the past 30 days. 18 and 2/3 innings pitched, an 11 ERA, and a 5.53 xFIP number. You take a look at him tonight, crushed against lefties, crushed against righties all season long. Cal Raleigh, tremendous numbers. He'll probably be on my card tonight. Same thing with J.P. Crawford. But Pfaadt's one of those guys you definitely want to fade. And again, third on the card, which you already talked about, was that Chicago Cubs game and Philadelphia Phillies, where I want to get after Colin Ray. I just have to make the right choices here. Again, Bohm, Castellanos, and then we're fighting in there with Kyle Schwarber as well. Jose Soriano, Los Angeles Angels, popping up here, 4th worst on the card. Let me see what we got against the Athletics, okay? 75-degree temperatures in L.A. Love to see that. 6-mile-an-hour wind blowing out. Fantastic stuff. You take a look at Soriano, low K rate, high walk rate. Look at that lineup there for the A's. Butler high numbers, Wilson high numbers, Rooker high numbers, Soderstrom high numbers, Muncy high numbers, Kurtz high numbers. A lot of strikeouts in that lineup too, which always scares me. But again, Jose Soriano, not really a strikeout pitcher. Let me just quick do a double take, or a double look, I should say, on Soriano. See what he's been doing the past couple starts here. Well, let's see if we got some mixes in here. Game log, 3 and 2/3 innings pitched, got blown away at Boston, but was really good against Cleveland. Stunk against Miami. Very average last time he took on the Athletics. Let's take a look and see what his splits are here. Weighted on base percentage, a little bit higher to lefties. Home, a 388 weighted on base percentage, but on the road, he's a 294. But obviously, he's pitching at home today, which is something you like to see. Home to lefties, a 391. Home to righties, a 384. He stinks at home. Was very good, though, pretty much for the month of May, weighted on base percentage-wise. His xFIP numbers, higher to lefties than righties. That's a fact. But his home xFIP, yeah, see, this is a tough one. I just want to fade the guy outright and have some good bats in the lineup for the A's, but I don't know if I can get down with that. Too many conflicting numbers that are going back and forth for me at that stage. Sandy Alcantara from Miami. Where's that game at today? Where are those Marlins playing? Let me scoot back to the early game slate here. Pittsburgh, again. Hard to say you love something because Alcantara's been so bad. Maybe it's just O'Neal Cruz and Nick Gonzalez. There's a lot of choices to make today, but we'll certainly make those. And by the way, I was talking a little bit about football to open the show. OTAs, which are mandatory, starting to kick in this weekend. Some guys not showing up. Terry McLaurin in Washington. TJ Watt in Pittsburgh. Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. None of those guys are getting traded. It's going to take some time to try to work out those contract demands. If I worry about one the most, it's got to be Trey Hendrickson. Like, I figure in Washington, you're saying to yourself, yeah, Terry's a big part of our future. We'll get this done. Let's just come to an agreement. Maybe it's not sooner than later. Same thing with TJ Watt. Like, TJ Watt's not leaving Pittsburgh. TJ Watt's going to get his number changed up, extended on. Big contract in the conference there for Myles Garrett for Cleveland, or should I say in division. He's going to get that taken care of. The one I do worry about, again, is Trey Hendrickson, where the Bengals tell him, you should be happy with the money you're making. If you show up, fantastic. If you don't, you'll pay the fines, and us as an ownership group will love you paying those fines to us. That'll do it today, Major League Baseball. Let's get some good topics going tonight with some W's. Donnie right side here and JP behind the wheels of steel. Thanks again for tuning in. Wednesday, hump day. Back at it tomorrow right here on the Sports Grid Network.
actionable insights, analysis, odds, and expert perspective on sports gaming.
Tied at 1. Indianapolis, the Thunder evened things up on Sunday with a 123-107 win. The Indianapolis Colts announced on Monday their ownership reorganization in the wake of the death of longtime owner Jim Irsay. His 3 daughters have assumed co-ownership of the team, each getting respective roles within the franchise. Irsay passed away at the age of 65 on May the 21st. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive.
That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
If there's one thing we know about dads, it's that they're not easy to shop for. Enter Kohl's. They've got everything from Nike golf gear to his favorite Levi's jeans. And you can save 20% on other finds like Flex Athleisure and Izod workwear. So if you're not sure what to get dad for Father's Day, you know where to go. Shop Kohl's now. Select styles. Offer ends June 15th. Some exclusions apply. Coupons do not apply to Nike and Levi's. See store at Kohl's.com for details.
You gotta dip your chicken strips. Hey, this is Kiani.
And this is Tabitha.
And a little thing we love about Chick-fil-A chicken strips
is all the different sauces we can dip them in. I like to line up all my favorite sauces so that in every bite I have a different flavor. Then with the tenderness of the chicken, the juiciness of it, it's all there.
And for me, I like to mix my sauces so I get a little tang and I get a little sweetness all in one bite.
That's what makes it for me. Like, that's what does it for me.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the summer of Chick-fil-A chicken strips and sauces. Order now on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
If you want to be an alpha,
you've got to get the winning edge.
It's kind of a necessary ingredient if you want to lead the pack. So mark your territory
with the winning edge.
You're in the big leagues. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
It's a big day here on Football Full Circle. That is FFC, all a part of the Sports Grid Radio Network and Sirius XM Channel 159. He is the mastermind of the pigskin. That is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Lisi guy, a big day around the NFL because mandatory minicamp really starting today in every spot around the National Football League. Deeper into the offseason programs for these NFL clubs we go. Of course, in large part, for most of the past few weeks, we have seen OTAs, but those are voluntary. If you skip out on mandatory minicamp, you can be subject to fines and financial penalties. So it's not so much who is there, but who might be absent in the significance for that player and that NFL franchise. It's what we'll discuss here in large part with a focus on the AFC North first and foremost on this Tuesday on Football Full Circle.
Yeah, and a couple of notables that you mentioned. Terry McLaurin for Washington, not in camp. And then you talk about Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith for the Miami Dolphins, 2 potentially key players for the offense and defense for the Miami Dolphins, no longer there. And then all eyes on Trey Hendrickson as well. What happens with all 3 of those players? That will they be with their respective clubs in 2025 for week number 1, or will they be on another team to potentially, make a run at an AFC or NFC championship? Those are the storylines that we'll see play out over the next few weeks. How do teams address these star players that could potentially be a disruption to the locker room, Ben? This is something that for both the Dolphins and obviously the Bengals, they need to get ahead of before the start of the regular season.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Joe. Mike McDaniel, the head coach of Miami, was asked how he feels that Jalen Ramsey is not there and that Ramsey has not been dealt just yet this offseason. He basically said, I don't give a SHIT about how I feel. I'm not sure if we can say that here on the family-friendly program that is Football Full Circle. So that goes to sum up how things are for the Fins at this current moment. But the big news, Joe, over the last 24 hours has been in Cincinnati. Yesterday, the Bengals releasing Jermaine Pratt, who was one of their defensive captains and the team's leading tackler last season. 143 total tackles to guide Cincinnati in what was a defense that ranked bottom 10 in both scoring and total defense. That's points and yards allowed in 2024. So, Joe, it's a fascinating move, if you ask me, for Cincinnati to release Jermaine Pratt when he was one of the bright spots of an abysmal defense a year ago. Pratt was hoping for a new deal. He has spent all 6 seasons of his NFL career in Cincinnati after being a third-round pick out of NC State back in 2019. And despite recording at least 118 tackles in the last 2 years and a $143 last year, that's top 10 around the NFL, the Bengals cut weight. They cut Jermaine Pratt, which I found very interesting yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, so it's almost like the Steelers. They're stuck in neutral when they had both George Pickens and DK Metcalf, and they didn't have a quarterback. Then they have a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, but they get one of their main weapons in George Pickens and deal him to Dallas. Same thing with the Cincinnati Bengals. The hope was to potentially keep Pratt and maybe lure Hendrickson with a long-term deal, and now you have 2 of the top players on your defensive unit that you could potentially build upon. But now with Pratt gone, let's say they do sign Hendrickson, is their defense all that much better? You lose the leading tackler. This is supposed to be a defense that has to elevate to potentially allow Joe Burrow and that offense to cook. So again, it doesn't help them if they just get Hendrickson and it's a bunch of nobodies around them. I mean, he could put up numbers, but that defense will still give up 30-plus points per game, and they'll have to outscore teams the way they did last year. So again, we have to see the mindset, the vision for Cincinnati moving forward, but not a good look with Jermaine Pratt not on the Bengals in 2025.
Not at all, Joe. Again, 6 years in Cincinnati, was hoping for a new deal with the Bengals, much like Trey Hendrickson. Of course, maybe did not make the headlines that Hendrickson requesting a trade did earlier in the offseason, but he asked to be traded from Cincy as well. I guess they did not find a trade partner, leading to his release. So now we go from Jermaine Pratt, one of the staples of this Bengals defense in their successful runs under Joe Burrow on that side of the football, to Trey Hendrickson, indeed, who is not showing up to mandatory minicamp for Cincinnati. No surprise there, Joe, but with his representation and the Bengals front office still at an impasse with zero progress on a potential contract extension, Trey Hendrickson is skipping out on mandatory minicamp for Cincinnati.
Yeah, you try to force your hand, right? If you're Hendrickson, you know that you're the best player on that defense. You led the NFL in sacks with 17 and a half, and you want a long-term deal the way T. Higgins and Jamar Chase got their money. Now, it's going to be a lot harder to make that type of argument, even though you put up the statistics. He didn't elevate that defense, past middle of the road. They were dead last in a bunch of categories. So again, we'll see what the mindset of Cincinnati is the longer that this plays out. Again, it weighs on the locker room. Joe Burrow likes to have everything in place from an offensive perspective. You want the continuity there from leadership on the defensive side. And if you don't have Trey Hendrickson bought in, that defense now again is in disarray, even with the new defensive coordinator. So again, we'll see how long they allow this to play out, but hopefully they wrap this up sooner rather than later. Otherwise, again, they have question marks entering the 2025 campaign, and this is a team that's battling for an AFC championship.
There's no doubt about it, Joe. It's been the conversation we have had around the Bengals the entirety of this offseason and largely last summer as well. Again, you pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You make Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, having a match and then set the records of Justin Jefferson and Myles Garrett and Max Crosby. So you have to outspend. Sure, you made Jamar Chase and probably Joe Burrow very happy, but you didn't leave a lot left for anybody else. T. Higgins becomes the highest paid secondary wide receiver in NFL history. Congrats. Your wideouts are taken care of, but nobody on a defense that allowed 25.5 points per game a season ago, 7th worst in the National Football League, nearly 350 yards per game, 8th worst in the NFL, and the guy who probably is most deserving outside of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is Trey Hendrickson, and that deal is not in place. Had you had the foresight to pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins last offseason, for T 2 off seasons ago, you free up that financial flexibility to be able to spend to be a true conference and championship contender, which is what the Bengals seemingly are attempting to be, Joe, but not really inspiring the confidence that they are. And it's not just Trey Hendrickson who is missing mandatory minicamp. 17th pick first round for the Bengals, 17th overall. Shamar Stewart has not agreed to his rookie deal, as he and his representation still battling with Cincinnati about some guaranteed wording in that contract. It should be standardized, and it is not. So Trey Hendrickson is not at minicamp, and Shamar Stewart is watching and not participating. Joe, these are not the positive vibes, especially on that defensive side of the ball that you want for the Bengals entering 2025.
No, and again, we talk about them with slow starts, right? They're 5.5-point week one favorites over Cleveland. This is a team that they should beat week number one and at least get out of the gate a lot better than they have over the past 3 or 4 seasons. But again, in order for them to make a legitimate AFC championship run, they need that defense not to be elite. We talked about it throughout the week, Ben. They need to be at least middle of the pack. They just cannot be from 25 to 32 and expect to challenge for an AFC championship. Not going to happen.
It's a great point, Joe, right? They were 7th worst in terms of scoring. They were 8th worst in terms of total yardage allowed defensively last year, and they still went 9-8. If they were middle of the pack this year under new DC Al Golden, maybe they would be a conference contender. What's the best bet around the Bengals? Next.
4 out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on Sports Grid, and we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin.
He just gives that 5.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
With the news flash, I'm Bill Banks reporting.
This update brought to you by Wendy's.
The Pentagon has deployed 700 Marines to Los Angeles in response to immigration protests, complementing local law enforcement and the National Guard. The troops are being deployed to protect federal property and personnel. Congressman Mark Green of Tennessee will retire from his seat once the House votes again on President Donald Trump's tax and budget policy bill. Green was the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee. Green says he has an opportunity in the private sector that is too good to turn down. Green's next election campaign would have been in 2026. A judge has dismissed Justin Baldoni's $400 million lawsuit filed against It Ends With Us co-star Blake Lively. Baldoni sued Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, alleging defamation and extortion. The judge ruled Baldoni cannot sue for claims made in a lawsuit because they're protected from libel. I'm Bill Banks with your news flash.
With Fidelity Wealth Management, a dedicated advisor gets to know you and your goals to build a comprehensive plan to help grow and protect your wealth. Backed by a team of specialists, they'll analyze all your accounts, even the ones they don't manage, to keep an eye on taxes and provide proactive portfolio insights that can help you unlock your wealth's full potential. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very
calm. I am. Ooma has everything I need to handle the busy holiday season, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
There's something you should know and always remember.
Sports Grid does not increase luck.
We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck,
go find a horseshoe.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. He is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Lisi guy, we have bemoaned the Bengals offseason, specifically on the defensive side of the ball for the past couple of months. It is coming to a head once again on this Tuesday as mandatory minicamp has begun in Cincinnati. And Trey Hendrickson, the NFL sack leader a year ago, was 17.5 of those bad boys, finishing runner-up in Defensive Player of the Year voting. And their 17th overall pick in round number 1, Shamar Stewart, who has not signed his rookie deal, are not at minicamp / not participating. And yet, Joe, we still have this idea that Cincinnati should be a double-digit win team in 2025. And led by that dynamic offense, should and could contend for a playoff spot. Here are the odds on the Bengals. 9.5 the win total in Cincy. The over has the considerable juice at minus 135. The Bengals favored at a minus 176 price to reach the playoffs. 2-1 number to win the AFC North. Second best price behind Baltimore. 9-1 price to win the AFC. Fourth best number behind the Bills, Ravens, and Chiefs. And a 19-1 price to win Super Bowl 60. Lisa Guy, let me start with this question, and then I'll ask a follow-up depending on your answer. Would you bet any of those numbers on the Bengals for 2025?
Well, I mean, I would bet make the playoffs at minus 178. I wouldn't bet it straight. I would put it in a parlay with a couple other teams, and you could do that on FanDuel. I think that's a worthy, bet to make, especially knowing the mindset and the bullseye on Cincinnati's back. It's do or die this season, right? The other bet I would make would be over the 9.5 at minus 135, right? I know it's minus money, and it seems like the books expect that. But again, you talk about the slow starts over the past few seasons, 0-2, 0-3 last year, couldn't get out of their own way, and they still manage a 9-8 overall record. I got to believe that this team comes in at least in the first half of the year, focused, right? Barring any major injury, I think they could get to 10 wins, and that's still battling the two best teams potentially, in the AFC, and talking about Kansas City and Buffalo and Baltimore, and knowing that they have to face the Ravens twice in the regular season, I still think they could be an 11-win football team. So for me, it's to make the playoffs at minus 178. I would even take a shot on over the 11.5 at plus 220.
Yeah, listen, Joe, I kind of agree with you, right? I do believe the Bengals will be a 10-win football team in 2025. I believe Cincinnati will make the postseason. And thus, if both Joe and I believe the Bengals are at least a 10-win football team in making the playoffs, they're in position to be in position. Does it make sense to bet Cincinnati to win the AFC Championship as well at a 9-1 number, right? That's $5 longer than where Kansas City is right now. Buffalo, the favorites, at plus 360. They're a dime in front of the Ravens at plus 370. The flock 30 cents in front of the Chiefs. And the thing that I have taken umbrage with, Joe, and that has always stood out to me based on the offseason pricing right now, you want to pick Buffalo and or Baltimore to win the AFC? Go right ahead. The fact they are priced in front of Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City, that is what grinds my gears. Why? Because Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have failed in the most significant of stages to beat Kansas City and to win the big game. The only quarterback in the AFC actively that has gotten past Patrick Mahomes in his 7 years as the starter in KC, that's Joe Burrow. So if you want a quarterback, at least with the track record and the pedigree to do so, Joe, it's on the Bengals. Now, I don't feel as though the Bengals are a true conference contender because of my questions about the defense. Is the defense bad enough to hold them back from a playoff spot? Maybe not. Could the defense be bad enough to hold Cincy back from an AFC championship game? That's what I would say.
Yeah, and think about the years that they challenged Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrow had the 3-0 record, right? Their defense was much better than where it was last year. They were absolutely atrocious. And again, you look at the two games that they lost to Baltimore, the overtime game, right? They scored 30-plus points, and their defense can't stop Lamar Jackson. In the game on Monday night or Thursday night where they had the 2-point conversion, you can make the argument there should have been a flag on that play, but at the end of the day, they could not contain Derrick Henry and Lamar in that offensive attack. And until that changes, you've got to give the inside edge at Baltimore to potentially maybe win an AFC championship. Expecting them to be better, though, Baltimore than Kansas City, I'm with you. Until they knock off the Kings of the Hill, you can't put my money on Baltimore, Buffalo, or even Cincinnati at this point. But again, we're talking about where's the value. You're talking about a 9-1 shot in a quarterback that does have a 3-1 overall record on Pat Mahomes. That's pretty good. And knowing that if they at least get there, it's worthy of the 9-1 price.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Joe. Again, if the Chiefs were plus 300 and the Ravens were 4-1 and the Bills were plus 450, go ahead and bet Baltimore and Buffalo. The fact the Bills and the Ravens are shorter than the Chiefs, again, that is my issue. And Lisa, guy, to your point about the Bengals not being able to afford another slow start, they have started at least 0-2 in each of their previous 3 seasons. Last year, 0-3. It was too much to overcome, especially with a poor defense. This year, on paper, they should be fine. Cincinnati starts as a 5.5-point favorite week number 1 against Cleveland. But then again, last year, the Bengals were the largest favorite of week number 1 as a 7-point favorite against the Patriots and lost that game outright at home. With the Bengals start against home games against the Browns, the Jags, road trips to Minnesota, and a Monday night game against the Denver Broncos. Joe, if they're not favored in all 4 of those games, even in the road tilts against the Vikes and the Broncos, it's not going to be more than 1.5 points, 2 points, certainly not more than a field goal. The Bengals should be in a good spot, at least to start 3-1 in their opening month, we would think.
That would be the hope, right? They start 3-1 with Joe Burrow and that offense, have a very good shot, and that 9-1's not going to be there then.
Good point. Very good point, Joe. We'll talk elsewhere around the AFC North. And another outstanding edge rusher, TJ Watt, not at mandatory minicamp. How big of a deal is it? We'll discuss next.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. The Sports Grid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1975, the Yankees sponsor Army Day at their temporary home Shea Stadium. During a 21-gun salute, part of the fence is blown away, and another part is set afire. The Bombers made Queens their home in 1974 and 75. The house that Ruth built reopened in 1976 as the Yankees beat the Twins 11-4. For Sports Grid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
New University of Geneva research suggests AI better at understanding human emotional intelligence than most humans.
Is this Tech Minute about something serious, or are you just really, really good at pretending?
No, 6 generative AIs actually tested 30% better than humans on standard emotional intelligence tests.
If nothing else, I'm really good at creative guessing.
Even wilder, AI generated new emotional intelligence tests from originals as useful as the ones humans took years to develop.
It's like a party where I know everyone but don't remember their name.
Meaning AI might replace human psychologists, but only when supervised by humans. For now, anyway.
My deepest fear, knowing the answer 5 minutes before I'm asked.
Follow me, at Capalbo on X, and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Moneyline.
I just don't want to see 19,000 aces every time I turn on tennis.
Watch the match. You don't even know what you're talking. But you didn't even watch that. So, Donnie, it was the longest final in the history of the French Open. Do you think?
Yeah, people probably screaming to get out. Like, this is ridiculous. I bet you half the stadium left after 3 hours at that point. 5 hours for tennis? Put me to sleep.
Catch Moneyline with Donnie Rightside and Kevin Walsh. Weekdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. On the Sports Grid Radio Network.
There comes a point when the chips are down.
To coin a phrase.
When the only thing you can do is stop and wait. Do you want to face that moment prepared?
Or rely on luck?
Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. It's FFC. Sure, it's a Tuesday in June, but we do have mandatory minicamps starting around the National Football League. If you do not show up, you are subject to financial penalties unless you have an excused absence. But Lisa Guy, if you're trying to renegotiate a new big contract, maybe some of those financial fines can be baked in to that large deal, which is the case not just for Trey Hendrickson, of course, in Cincinnati, but TJ Watt in Pittsburgh. TJ Watt not at minicamp for the Steelers right here, right now. The two guys, Joe, that have led the National Football League in sacks the previous 2 seasons. Hendrickson last year with 17.5, Watt in 2023 with 19 in total. Both not at mandatory minicamp, for their respective clubs, of course, both divisional foes in that AFC North. We see guy TJ Watt wants a new deal. Are you at all concerned by the fact he is not at minicamp?
Yeah, I am. And again, I think if we talk about veterans being a part of the team in minicamp, you want TJ Watt there because of what you have at the quarterback position. And I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers waltzing in and signing that one-year deal and knowing that there's potentially a disruption in the locker room when you have a guy that's so polarizing, good or bad, like Aaron Rodgers. He demands the media attention. It's going to be his way or no way. And that's something that, quite honestly, Steelers really haven't dealt with in a long, long time. You know, players have been bought in to the organization. They've been bought into their head coach. And we didn't see that with Aaron Rodgers. Now with TJ Watt wanting a long-term deal, knowing that he's the heart and soul of the defense, maybe not statistically living up as he was over the past couple of seasons, but still an integral part of that defense and that unit. If he's checked out, that's a huge cause of concern for the team. Again, I would sign him knowing because Aaron Rodgers is in the building. I want TJ Watt there to be the figurehead and the leader of that team. He is the face of the organization. Yeah. If Aaron Rodgers gets a hold of it, this team could go off the rails sooner rather than later.
I think it's a good point, right, Joe? Maybe not so that Aaron Rodgers now tries to instill his influence and take over as that guiding voice in the Steelers locker room, but of course he is now more than likely the starting quarterback, so of course that will be a very influential figure. But just if you're kind of starting this new tide, right, this new era of Steelers football, at least for 2025, you want everything positive, right? You want Watt there to show Aaron Rodgers around. You want TJ Watt there to have everybody actively involved in mandatory minicamp. Now, for me personally, Joe, when there is a player that is not happy with their contract situation and are hoping to agree on a new extension, and it's not a Trey Hendrickson situation, which earlier in the offseason that player demanded a trade, it doesn't really bother me when they sit out of mandatory minicamp. Why would TJ Watt be in there, bust his hump in practices if he wants to make sure he holds on to his leverage to get a new deal, right? Obviously, team first mentality, all of that good stuff, I completely understand. But Watt's been doing this for quite some time. It's not like if he is not there at this point in early June, ahead of mandatory minicamp, it is that significant. Come late July in training camp, different story. Right here in June, not that big of a deal, but there are additional layers to this, especially with the big news that Pittsburgh has surrounded itself with last week. The addition of Aaron Rodgers, the sign of the times in the Steel City. You kind of just want all the vibes to be good and positive as you are trying to change the narrative around this Steelers franchise, which is that, hey, you're a winning football team, but you're not a contending football team.
Yeah, and if they're going to contend, right, you need that winning mentality and you need the continuity. And that's where I have concerns because it's not just Aaron Rodgers. You bring in now a big play wide receiver in DK Metcalf that you could say wasn't happy in Seattle. He's been temperamental throughout his career. You ship Najee Harris to the Chargers. You bring in a rookie in terms of Caleb Johnson that's supposed to elevate the rushing attack. But again, these are still rookies and first-year players in Mike Tomlin's scheme, right? In Mike Tomlin's team. And that's the one thing that we talk about, the consistency of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're blue collar. Players buy in. Maybe sometimes they're under the radar, but they get it done on the football field. That's not what we have now from a locker room perspective, and that's why I'm concerned.
Yeah, TJ Watt not there during the season. Of course, that's going to impact the Steelers. But part of the reason, Joe, Pittsburgh has been able to be a playoff team and a winning team the last 3 years. They've been a top 10 scoring defense each of the previous 3 seasons. More on FFC comes your way next.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
A long-awaited roster move for the Packers on Monday. They released cornerback Jair Alexander after 2 straight injury-filled seasons. Both sides were trying to find middle ground, but Alexander's tenure with the Packers ends after 7 seasons. He had planned to report for mandatory minicamp starting today. The 2018 first-round pick had 2 years left on the 4-year, $84 million deal that made him the highest-paid cornerback in the NFL at the time. The move will save the Packers more than $17 million in salary cap space this season. The NBA Finals tied at 1 game apiece. Game 3 is this Wednesday night in Indianapolis. The Thunder evened things up on Sunday with a 123-107 win. Following organized team activities, most teams around the NFL begin mandatory minicamp starting today. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Father's Day is Sunday, and if you haven't found a gift yet, don't panic. Just come to Macy's Father's Day sale for gifts that'll make Dad say, this is perfect. Shop designer polos from Lacoste and Tommy Hilfiger, 30 to 50% off. Watches from Citizen and Bulova, 30% off. Fragrance gift sets, boxed and ready to give. Even a 36-piece Cuisinart grill set, now half off. Hurry in. Father's Day is this Sunday, and this sale starts tomorrow at Macy's. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
You're listening to Sports Grid.
Spreading the winning edge far and wide.
Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app.
Face it.
The winning edge is everywhere.
Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
And just to put it in perspective, the 2 big names that we have discussed, 2 of the best edge rushers and sack artists in the National Football League, Trey Hendrickson and T.J. Watt. T.J. Watt, by the way, last 2 years, 30.5 sacks, second most in the last 2 seasons in the NFL. Trey Hendrickson, 35 total sacks in the last 2 seasons, the most of any player in the National Football League. Currently right now, Joe, T.J. Watt, age of 31 years old, makes $28 million basically per season. That is 7th most in the National Football League. Myles Garrett, Danielle Hunter, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa. The 4 edge rushers / defensive linemen that make north of $29 million per year, and everybody at $34+ million of AAV. Trey Hendrickson, $21 million per season. It is why these guys are asking for those bigger deals. And Joe, those deals that we have seen, Garrett, Hunter, Crosby, Bosa, all signed in at least 2023 or later. Garrett, Hunter, Crosby, 3 highest paid edge rushers in the NFL, all at $35.5 million or more based on that annual average value for that salary. Those have all been signed at a stage of this 2025 offseason. It is why T.J. Watt and Trey Hendrickson want to get paid, and it's frankly why they are deserving to see that contract increase.
Yeah, it's almost like when Daniel Jones got the $40 million, and then every better, quarterback better and had better resume and stats than Daniel Jones wanted their money, and he set the bar for the quarterback position for the most part, right? And once he got 40, everybody was getting 40 and 50 and in upwards of almost $60 million like Dak Prescott. So, that's what happens. And now when you see Max Crosby and you see Myles Garrett, dominant defensive edge rushers, get their money, and then you're TJ Watt, and you know that you're potentially the best player on that defensive unit when healthy, you want your money. And if you're Hendrickson as well, even if you didn't have a dominant defensive unit, you led all of the NFL statistically in one of the main categories in terms of sacks. We talk about getting after the pass rusher and how much value that is worth in terms of compensation and dollar value. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
So again, teams have to make, that's why you're seeing teams, I think, too, release players in certain positions, right? We saw, or move on. We see it at the running back position. Look at Pittsburgh in particular, moving on from Najee Harris, a younger running back. They get Caleb Johnson in there, rookie deal. That's what happens. But a team that has Trey Hendrickson, whether it be Cincinnati or anyone else, if he does go to, let's say, Baltimore or Buffalo, they're immediately a contender because he's the cherry on top. With Cincinnati, he's the best player, but he's already been involved in that defense, and he's absorbed. You need the other, 10 players to elevate you to the next level. And that's where I think each team has to make the assessment on the player. Are they worth it, or could we move on and still make the same type of productivity?
Of course, you're going to get a much cheaper option in Shamar Stewart, who the Bengals drafted 17th overall with their first-round pick in late April. But then again, you probably need to finish out the contract and the wording and the legal language to make sure Shamar Stewart is participating during mandatory minicamp as well. That is why great drafting teams have success. It's why they can pay a ton of players on either side of the football. Because if you get high-performing rookies, even those that are first-round draft picks, you get them at a discount for the 3-4 years under their rookie deal before that first extension even comes up for debate. You have to capitalize on those windows, and you want to make sure those players learn the basics and the organization from the very start, which Shamar Stewart has not been able to do. Lisa Guy, you mentioned a couple of other players on the other side of the ball that are dealing with contract situations, some that are at mandatory minicamp, others that are not. Let's start in Washington. Terry McLaurin, after a career year for the Commanders, he has found that pairing with Jaden Daniels, should be incredibly excited moving forward to 2025, is not at mandatory minicamp. He is in the final year of his contract this upcoming season, and Terry McLaurin not going to report to mandatory minicamp in hopes of getting that new contract extension as well.
Yeah, again, quarterback to wide receiver relationship. You want Terry McLaurin there if you're Jaden Daniels. I mean, Terry McLaurin has dealt with a number of different quarterbacks, right? Almost a rotation each and every year with new offensive coordinators, and he breaks out with his best touchdown performance in terms of finding the end zone. Yeah. And if you're talking about a team that elevated to an NFC championship game, you want your wide receiver number one. Now, I think when you look at Terry McLaurin and you look at productivity, there's some that will say, you know what, Terry's not in the elite like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and in that regard. But now with competent quarterback play, Jaden Daniels, he could be that type of player. So it's almost like, where do you see Terry McLaurin 2 or 3 years down the road from now? And I think if you're Dan Quinn, you get this done immediately. Again, we talk about wide receivers not being happy. He's the mainstay. He's been there with garbage quarterbacks over the past few seasons. Prior to Jaden Daniels, you have an identity now. Don't disrupt it, because the eye and the challenge is getting back to an NFC championship. Not going to be easy, and you want the locker room intact before the season starts.
Is Terry McLaurin as elite as Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase? Maybe not. Is he as consistent as you will find around the National Football League and a highly productive pop? No doubt about it, Joe. 6 years in the National Football League, again, with a rotating cast and crew at the quarterback position and offensive play calling that was equally confounding. Terry McLaurin has had at least 919 receiving yards every single year. And in the previous 5 that he has not been a rookie, over the 1,000-yard receiving mark with at least 77 grabs in all 5 seasons. In last year, 82 grabs, 1,096 yards, 13 receiving touchdowns. The first year of his NFL career, he had double-digit receiving scores. The first year in his NFL career, he had more than 7 receiving touchdowns. And like for many, it was a record-setting and historic year for McLaurin in Washington. You get this deal done. Terry, who has signed a second deal with Washington after his rookie deal came to a close back in 2022, is making right now, Joe, $23.2 million of AAV. There are 12 wide receivers around the National Football League that make $25 million or more per year. Terry McLaurin is certainly deserving of being in that ballpark and probably being one of the 8 guys who makes $30 million or 9 guys who makes $30 million per year as well. And all of those deals have happened as of late. A lot of it when it comes to your contract disputes and what you are asking for, just a matter of inflation, right? The increased salary cap and the increased payments that are given out. Terry McLaurin is deserving of that deal, should see it very soon.
Yeah, and Terry McLaurin is a consummate professional. I mean, he's gone about his business. I mean, you never hear Terry McLaurin, being checked out. I mean, when Washington was terrible and sub 500, Terry McLaurin was giving it his all each and every week. So you got to sort of reward that in terms of going through the growing pains with a losing organization with Daniel Snyder, and now Josh Harris and Dan Quinn have this team on the upswing. And part of that is you want players that buy into the organization and that represent your team in a positive way. And that's what Terry McLaurin does. And not only that, you want your starting quarterback, Jaden Daniels, to not have a sophomore jinx per se like CJ Stroud, where there's some regression last year, right? And didn't elevate the way we thought he would in terms of year number 2. You want to try and get Jaden Daniels past what he did last year. Terry McLaurin will help you do that. Sign him sooner rather than later. Again, he is the mainstay and a legit number 1 in the NFC.
No doubt about it, Joe. It should be an offseason for the Commanders to build on. I expect them to get that deal done very, very soon. Plenty more comes your way on Football Full Circle. All the news and notes around the NFL continues up next, live right here on Sports Grid Radio.
We're not saying every Sports Grid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie.
Just saying.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
With the news flash, I'm Bill Banks reporting.
This update brought to you by Wendy's.
Congressman Mark Green of Tennessee will retire from his seat once the House votes again on President Donald Trump's tax and budget policy bill. Green was the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee. Green says he has an opportunity in the private sector that is too good to turn down. Green's next election campaign would have been in 2026. The Pentagon has deployed 700 Marines to Los Angeles in response to immigration protests, complementing local law enforcement and the National Guard. The troops are being deployed to protect federal property and personnel. A judge has dismissed Justin Baldoni's $400 million lawsuit filed against It Ends With Us co-star Blake Lively. Baldoni sued Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, alleging defamation and extortion. The judge ruled Baldoni cannot sue for claims made in a lawsuit. I'm Bill Banks with your news flash.
This Father's Day at Lowe's, score free gifts for the greatest dad. Right now, get a free Blackstone 8-piece accessory kit when you buy a Blackstone 28-inch griddle. Plus, get 2 free select Craftsman V20 tools when you buy an RP brushless drill and impact driver combo kit. Shop these deals and more this Father's Day at Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 6/15 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in life, like fences. A house with a big yard and a white picket fence was always the dream. But then you saw the price to install a fence and you're wondering if the color is driving the price up. Nobody ever dreams of a beige or a gray picket fence, right? So maybe those fences are cheaper. But no, they're not. Then you remember that switching your home and auto to Progressive could save you hundreds and make all your dreams of a fence come true. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Remember when you were thankful you could just get AM and FM?
Things have progressed.
Now even an app on your phone can give you a 21st century thrill with that little drop of heaven called
the deposit notification.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. Lisi Guy, we're talking mandatory minicamp. We're talking who is out there, who is available, who has showed up, and maybe who is not in attendance. We have talked about Terry McLaurin not being there. TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson, both not at mandatory minicamp for the Steelers and Bengals, respectively. One guy hoping to seek a new deal who is at mandatory minicamp, that's Bills running back James Cook. He is hoping for a contract extension. in the resurgence of the running back position in the NFL, but he did report to mandatory minicamp this week in Buffalo.
Yeah, now, we have a bunch of Bills fans on the network, right? Behind the scenes and host. And, Carver, Gabe, the list goes on and on. Sam Yarnell over there. And some of them are concerned. I think Carver's not. And I would be. If I'm Sean McDermott and I look at the offensive identity for Buffalo, and you see what they were able to do, when they were productive 2 years ago at the end of the regular season, when they went into the playoffs, and last year, even in the loss to Kansas City, James Cook was a mainstay of that offense, running the football, catching it out of the backfield. And again, if I have sights to knock off Lamar Jackson and to knock off Pat Mahomes, I need James Cook in that offense. And I know Ty Johnson is a very good change of pace and complimentary back, along with sweet baby Ray Davis. But you cannot tell me that they are as good or as elite and explosive as James Cook. I just don't buy it. He is just like his brother Dalvin in terms of the early part of his career. They need him to make an AFC championship run. I don't know what they're doing. Again, it's running back by committee right now. If he's not there, that's not a good, a good issue to have if you're Sean McDermott. I want James Cook in that backfield, happy, signed, and let's go for 2025. If he's checked out, this team could be in disarray.
Again, it's all about positional value, right? But we have seen the running back spot kind of make its way back, both in drafting and in offseason extensions. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, the list goes on and on. Is James Cook going to get those record-setting numbers? No. Should he get a big deal, maybe $12, $14, $15 million per year? I would say so. Lisa Guy, when you think about what James Cook has done in his last 2 years in Buffalo, he was a second-round pick in 2022. His last 2 seasons, he has been a Pro Bowl player. He is coming up on the final year under his rookie deal in 2025. 2 seasons ago in 2023, 1,122 yards on the ground, 445 receiving yards, is a dynamic and complete threat out of the backfield. Last year, 1,009 rushing yards, 258 receiving yards, but the big difference for the Bills in terms of productivity in scoring, Joe, James Cook had 16 rushing touchdowns last year, only 2 the year prior in 2023. Those 16 rushing scores, good for first alongside Derrick Henry and Jahmyr Gibbs for the most in the National Football League. James Cook is deserving of a big deal and a contract extension entering the final year of his rookie deal in Buffalo. Again, he is there. He is present. He is reported to mandatory minicamp. To me, Joe, could be a good sign that this deal is going to be done rather quickly.
Yeah, you would hope, right? You just look at the game logs, that he played AFC Championship game, 85 yards on the ground, 49 on 3 receptions. And, oh, by the way, the offensive staff didn't have him on the field on the last drive where they got stone cold. Why was that? Again, you look at the 100-yard performances. The game against Detroit, he rushes for 105 yards, 7.5 yards per carry. The guy is explosive. Again, not just in terms of running the football, but out in space in the passing attack. That's what you want to see to take the pressure off of Josh Allen. Granted, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis can pick up the slack for the most part, but when you have a home run hitter in that lineup, that changes the whole offensive identity. The offensive line buys in for the most part. They love blocking for a guy like that, and he's young. The guy's a winner at every level. You're talking about a national champion at Georgia. Sign the guy. I don't understand. We talk about main pieces. If you're Sean McDermott and you're a team that hasn't achieved what your full potential is, and your player James Cook is going to help you get there, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, and Joe, this is a Buffalo team that is hoping to get to a stage in 2025 and is expected from the odds perspective to realize just that they have not, of course, in quite some time. The Buffalo Bills have the highest win total around the National Football League. It's 11.5. The over has the considerable juice at minus 160. There is a thought that Buffalo is going to have the best record in the National Football League. which means they would be the 1 seed in the AFC playoff picture. They would host playoff games in Western New York. And the Buffalo Bills are the strongest favorite of any team to win any division around the NFL. The AFC East, in large part, has taken a step back. The Dolphins are seen to be, at best, a 500 team, probably 8-9, 7-10. The Jets, of course, are not seen as optimistically as the 2 years with Aaron Rodgers. And the Patriots actually have the second best win total, or second best outlook, maybe, within the AFC East. We're talking about a team with a win total of 7.5. The Bills have the 5th easiest schedule. They should win the AFC East for a 6th consecutive season. But, Joe, just if they win the division, and heck, even if they're the 1 seed in the AFC, Buffalo has won the AFC East 5 consecutive years. They have been ousted by the Chiefs in 4 of those 5 years. They have been ousted in the divisional round in 3 of those 5 years. They have been unable to change the narrative that has followed this team in their postseason woes, and that is namely Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs still standing in their way.
Yeah, when they have had home field advantage, they don't play their style of football. And again, that includes the devastating loss to the Cincinnati Bengals 3 years ago, where Joe Burrow kicked them in the chops. So when they have home field, they lose their identity for some reason. We'll see if they can get there this year, Ben.
We shall see. Lisi Guy takes you home on the other side of the break here on Football Full Circle. They need the studio for some interviews. Joe Lisi takes you home on Football Full Circle. Up next.
Luck is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket.
It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. Sports Grid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on Sports Grid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. Sports Grid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Moneyline at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find Sports Grid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Imagine combining the exciting investment opportunity of cryptocurrencies with the power of artificial intelligence to maximize your IRA, 401k, or other investment funds. Listen, if you're looking for ways to accelerate your retirement growth, Block Trust IRA has market-leading strategies and solutions for all levels of investors, from $1,000 to millions. And they partner with Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto trading fund in the world to maximize your returns. Plus, their team of IRA specialists is here to help you roll over your IRA or qualified retirement account to the new world of cryptocurrency investments. So make this free call right now to set up your account and learn more.
800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. That's 800-434-5313.
It's stark but true.
You can either listen to Sports Grid for strategies, odds, and more, or you can pay your bills by digging in your couch cushions for change.
Just be sure to wear gloves.
Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
All right, back on Football Full Circle. Ben and I will be back tomorrow breaking down college and NFL. We did leave off talking about James Cook and his ability at 1,000-yard rusher last year, his ability in respect to the short to intermediate passing game. What does that mean for the Buffalo Bills? Big picture for the Buffalo to make the playoffs. And you heard Ben mention 5th easiest schedule, which is sort of intriguing when you think about how they have dominated the AFC East over the past 5 seasons. Their biggest competition last year came by the way of the New England Patriots. They lost one game at the end of the regular season and then beat New England in Orchard Park 24-21. Their total is 9.5 on FanDuel, and it's minus 550 to the over. And again, are you going to make that bet potentially for Buffalo to be a 10 or an 11 win football team? I wouldn't do that. I think I would take a shot if you believe that Buffalo can take a step back for them to miss the playoffs. And I think when you look at that number, they are probably right there at plus 490. When we talk about best prices for the teams to potentially miss the playoffs, and you just take the 4 best teams in the NFL, Philadelphia is only plus 290 to miss the playoffs. We know about the NFC East not having back-to-back champions since 2004. I still think the Eagles have the best shot to break that string, but plus 290 to miss the playoffs is really not a great number on the defending Super Bowl champs. You look at Kansas City, a team that has won or played in the AFC Championship in 7 straight meetings, plus 290 as well. So Ravens right there at plus 330 to miss the playoffs. Not great numbers when you think about it, just in terms of the best teams in the NFL, but plus 490, almost 5-1 for the Buffalo Bills. So you want to take a shot under the 9.5? That's okay. But I would take a shot if you believe Buffalo will take a step back at plus 490. Now, when we look at the conference and we look at the division AFC East, the one team I am high on, and we've talked about it throughout the offseason in terms of the addition of the Justin Fields and the New York Jets, 16-1 to potentially win the AFC East. Do I believe that's a good number? I do, actually. Do I expect the New York Jets with a 5.5 win total to win the AFC and knock off Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? No. But to make the playoffs, I think that's a potential good bet. An alt market to potentially get over 8.5 or even 9 wins, I think is doable for this team. I know they have a first-year head coach in terms of Aaron Glenn. He comes back to the organization that he played for, being a former player at Texas A&M and a standout for the Jets throughout the 90s and early 2000s. I think this team has the recipe, at least from an offensive perspective, to compete. Now, when you look at the teams that they're going up against in the AFC East, New England with a new first-year head coach, even though Vrabel's been there, it's still a new offensive scheme, new offensive identity. Don't like the wide receivers that they have on the roster. With Stephon Diggs in that lineup, it doesn't matter. I don't think they even sniff 7.5 wins this year. On the flip side, when you look at Miami, they're a team going in the opposite direction. They have the offense, don't have the defense, and Mike McDaniel, to me, is dead man walking. They do on FanDuel have specific order of each division. I like that bet to have Buffalo number 1, the Jets number 2, actually New England 3, and I think the doormats of the AFC East happen to be the Miami Dolphins. I've said it time and time again. They're not going anywhere with their head coach, Mike McDaniel. I don't believe in Tua. That's if he can make it through a 17-game schedule. If they get rid of Jalen Ramsey, they still have major question marks to answer on the defensive side of the ball, and they could score points with anybody. But at the end of the day, if they're going to make the playoffs and even challenge, that defense needs to take the next step. So for me, I like the Jets over the 5.5 win total. I'll give you the alt odds on FanDuel. You want to take a shot over 7.5, plus 210 right now on FanDuel. Over 5.5 is minus 140. Do I believe Justin Fields is going to be that guy? I do. From a leadership perspective, from the RPO game, from playing with his former teammate Garrett Wilson in terms of Ohio State, I believe Justin Fields can add an element that Aaron Rodgers could not bring this team last year. It was Aaron Rodgers and everybody else. Justin Fields is a winner. Justin Fields is a locker room guy. Team bought in Pittsburgh last year. He was 4-2 as a starter. They're going to regret allowing Justin Fields to play for the New York Jets. They square off week number 1. We'll see you tomorrow on Football Full Circle. Have a great day, everyone.
found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.